All right. So, okay. Sorry, Colton. I'm a noob at using GoToWebinar.
Oh, God.
Great.
Oh gosh.
Oh, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, we were going for a bit because we thought it had started, but it was on pause. Sorry about that. Thank you for
Thank you for letting us know.
that's one for the books, huh?
Colton, we apologize.
Good.
Okay. All right. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to welcome.
At least we got all the jitters out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
We got a phenomenal builder here. We got so excited. We went ahead with the conference call without y'all.
We wanted to have some minutes with Colton ourselves. You know?
But yeah, we've got one of the best here with us, Colton Whited. Colton, if you don't mind, again, can you give a brief intro on how you started the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So my parents were introduced to the business back in 1996. So that was kind of the whole family was introduced to the company back in 1996. I was 3 years old when I was around this. So this is pretty much all I've ever known. MarketAmericaShop.com. My parents are executive directors. My grandparents are executive directors. There's directors on both sides that all make a lot of money. We've lived a very interesting life full of lots of different stories and pieces and facets, and money's just options. And when you create money that comes in on an ongoing basis, my parents had a lot of options, which led to a really interesting story that they were able to weave, which leads me up to 2015, June of 2015. Somehow I made the best pitch of my entire life and got a lady named Michaela. I convinced her to marry me, which is a heck of a pitch. You think showing the plan's hard. Imagine doing this. I mean, the rest of your life plan. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Not a 2 to 3 year window. This is long-term vision here. So somehow she believed me, and we got married in June of 2015. And we're coming back from the honeymoon. She was asleep on my arm here, and I remember the weight of it all hit me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like stoked about the marriage part, but like terrified that she, like the rest of her life, she was looking at me for the answers, and I had no idea what we were doing. I was a server at a restaurant. I was kind of going to college, but even kind of half-heartedly with that. I had no idea what I was doing. And in August of 2015, I had my parents sit down with me, and they showed me Market America's compensation plan. They showed me how this all works, stuff that I'd kind of been around but never actually seen before. We sat down and looked at the numbers. I was mesmerized by the idea of leverage. I was mesmerized by the fact I could sit here, have a conversation with somebody, and still get paid on an ongoing basis no matter what I was doing. And to really see that played out, I got fired up. We launched in August of 2015, and today we are supervising coordinators, which is $7,500 to $10,000 in 4 weeks, which brings us up to this conference call right now.
Thank you. My mistake with that. In my mind, you were always national. In my mind, you're director already.
Yes.
So
I like the synthetic. You're just calling it out. I like it. It's good.
That's right. All right. So we got a couple of topics that we're going to talk through tonight, and I think you're the perfect person for this next one. You are phenomenal at a phenomenal business builder, and a big part of that comes in showing the plan and how you go about to do that. So that's the first topic that we want to touch upon is showing the plan. I love it. John loves it. I know you love it. Colton,
Yes.
what are some of the tips? What are some of the things that have to happen? What the most important things that have to happen for you when you're showing the plan?
Man, that's a great way to even word that question. Is what has to happen for you? How do you do this? I think to become a really good builder, at some point you have to fall in love with showing the plan, which means you first got to do it. My first plan that I ever showed was to a professional coordinator today. I didn't know. I wish people walked around with signs, that they held on their chest that said, "I'll be a future director. I'll be a future, professional." I had no idea he looked like every other dude to me. But he was a sharp business guy. He owned a big car mechanic business in town, and I walked into my first real appointment, and he had 5 people sitting around the table ready to see the business plan with him. And all I knew at that point was how to draw out Market America's compensation plan. That's all I knew. That's all mom and dad taught me how to do. So I walk into this appointment. I'm 21 years old. I'm about to walk right back out, man. I am terrified. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. And I start out, and I'm like, step 1, apply, $129.95. Step 2, create business volume, internet business volume. Step 3, oh dear God, what's step 3? Totally froze in front of this room of people. And I'm like, oh, there's a video. Can we just the couch? And literally 3 of the 5 people left at that time. They walked out. They're like, oh, he's cute, but we're out of here. and on a wasted night. And David, Black is his name. He's the professional coordinator today. He stuck with me, asked me a bunch of questions. I learned my 3 favorite words in showing the plan where I don't know. At the beginning, you don't know. And I was like, I don't know, but it lends very naturally into booking a follow-up. And so anyway, to answer your question completely, showing the plan is first just a matter of doing it. Everyone's nervous to do it. Everyone's scared to do it, but you got to do it in order to get good at it. And it's better to get good and have the ability in your own hands than be subject to somebody else's timing, somebody else's motivation. If you're depending on Andrew, if you're depending on me, you're in trouble. Because I don't always feel like, sometimes I'm not, sometimes I'm not there. But if you have the excitement behind you, if you have it, if you have the ability to do it, then it's in your control.
How soon would you get somebody to show the plan on their own? Like, would it be their first meeting right off the bat, or do you have a limit? You say, all right, I'm gonna do 3 with you, and then the 4th one you're starting to take over. How do you do that?
I have less rules on this because everyone is a little different. So it's not like 3 and you're done kind of thing. But there's a shift that happens in the plan. When it starts out, they're petrified. Usually, 99% of the time, they're like, oh, I don't know, this is my friend, you're showing the plan. They're scared. And you're kind of water skiing over the information, explaining concepts, and they chime in a little bit, but mostly they're just sitting there real quiet, just kind of like rocking back and forth, trying not to look weird. And the second time they start to get a little bit more information. Usually that 3rd time, they're like, no, you missed the best part. And they like go into their favorite parts, and they're like hopping in. And I start to let go of more of the control and let them do more of the stuff. And at that point, once somebody can even do a bad job of showing the plan, I'd rather them show the plan than me. I'd rather have 1,000 people showing bad plans than me show 100 really good ones.
Yeah, that's so true.
That's gold right there. Yeah. What's your favorite way of doing it? Do you use the slides, or do you draw it out? Or
favorite way? Definitely drawing it out. No doubt about it. I think everyone who is successful with this business, their favorite way to show the plan is drawing it out.
Steps 1 through 5, you draw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you see their eyes, man. When you start to see those eyes, it shifts from like this, from like this to like that to like this to like that. Like those eyes right there, that last one there, like that one done. It's game over at that point. They don't even know what they're getting into, but they're in.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's something that I've been wrestling with as well. I love the slides, but deep down, like because of duplication, how I learned how to show the plan in the beginning was I was in the era when the videos were introduced, and it was just press play. So we put in the DVD and we push play. The plan would show. We pause at certain parts and we talk through it. But I think for our listeners out there, correct me if I'm wrong, Colton. Any way that you can show the plan, you can show the plan. Any way, right?
Absolutely. You can get the information across. You guys want to know the key thing in my mind? Here's the key. Here's the deal. The plan is a lot less about the information. People don't want to be convinced. And I see a lot of people out there showing the plan, trying to convince the other person. People don't want to be convinced.
Right.
They want to be convinced that you're convinced of where you're going.
Oh,
and
I love that.
If you could focus a lot more on being convinced than you are of convincing, you're going to be in great shape. So on the practice webinar we did a few minutes ago, I talked about the most important minute of the entire plan is the minute before you walk into the appointment, and getting this right, getting your heart right, getting your emotions right. That I'm not trying to sell somebody something. I'm convincing them that I think this is a good idea. I'm convinced I'm in the right direction, and like getting this centered first and focusing a lot more on bringing value than on arm-barring somebody into your business. And if I bring a tremendous amount of value and I convince them that I'm convinced, my plans didn't get improved from that first one very much for my first 3 or 4 months in the business. But every appointment I would always say, I'm going to figure this stuff out. I promise you I'll figure this part out. But I know I'm going to have an organization of hundreds of people moving thousands of volume every single week. And those that come along with me are going to make a lot of money, and those that don't won't. And I'd love for you to be part of that.
Right.
And that just came right out of here. And I didn't understand a lot of the information. I learned it as I went along, but I was very convinced of where I was going. People latched on to being convinced more than they were ever convinced that this was going to work, if that makes sense.
Right.
It's not what you say, it's how you say it sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the plan, Colton, is a good avenue to not just give out the information. I agree with you on that. The information is great, and you got to know it so you can explain, the important parts of it. But it's more about people got to see it a couple of times, and they have to understand it, along the way. But
the plan is a pass-fail system. I remember talking to my dad after I showed my first plan, and I was like, it went terrible. He asked me these questions, and I didn't know. I think I offended him at one point, and he's like, well, what's the next step? When's the follow-up book for? And I'm like, he's coming on Thursday to our meeting. He wants more information. I'm sending some videos right now, and we're gonna get together on Thursday. He's like, brilliant, you crushed it, way to go. The next appointment, I'd be like, the person's life was changed, Dad. You have no idea. They were crying. Hallelujah, angels were singing from up above. This appointment changed that person's life. He goes, Colton, I'm so proud of you. I know you can make this thing happen. What's the next step for that person? I'm like, I don't know. They said they're going to get back to me at some point. He's like, fail. Right? The plan is literally a pass fail. Did you book the follow-up or did you not book the follow-up? And did you show it with conviction? That's, however you do that. I mean, it could be, you got, whatever. You got Splenda packets, as long as you.
That's it. Sugar packets. I heard. What's his name? One of the guys at corporate, right? He just hit national. Scott Grogan. Do you know Scott?
Of course.
Yeah, everybody knows Scott, man. This guy's a director of field training, and he writes the training for the company. He shows the plan sometimes with sugar packets in a restaurant, just the boxes and squares. So it's being, for our listeners out here, I think what Colton's trying to say is you gotta just show it to a point where you know it so well and you're so comfortable with the information, you can do it with sugar packets, right?
Yep. And to start out, I mean, shooting straight. Like, I think everybody should do it with the flip chart to start with. I think the flip chart's the best bet. It's stable. It's always there. You can go through it. I have my flip chart laminated and spiral bound, so I can always kind of write on it if I need to with the Visavis markers and stuff, the dry erase. But something, you can explain it that way. But as quickly as you can, in my opinion, after you hit coordinator, like right around that time when you hit coordinator, you should be able to draw out our compensation plan on a whiteboard. Somebody pass you a whiteboard or a blank piece of paper. You should be able to draw out steps 1 through 5, explain all the core concepts, re-entry. Not that you do this every single time, but you need to be able to explain, how do we pay 100%? That's a big thing. Like, that's my big thing. I need people to understand, how do we pay 100%? Because the math behind that is genius. And it's the crux to the whole thing. That's the linchpin to the whole deal. The linchpin to our entire company is the fact that we have that cap. And if you can explain that cap in a way that makes sense to the other person, that it clicks, that we cap the people at the top. In order to make more money, they got to come back down to the bottom. All the money's at the bottom of the whole thing. If you explain that concept, the world becomes your oyster, because then you can do whatever's there. But if you can't explain that concept, then no amount of tools is going to help you.
Yeah, and it helps. John, you see me do this a couple times. Like when we explain the cap, I build a suspense. Build it up, the suspense. I said, man, one of my biggest questions that I had when I was showing the plan, when I was seeing this, was how can the company afford to pay everybody 100% down infinite levels without going broke? And Colton, when I tell you the answer, it's going to blow you away. It's so simple, but it's going to blow. And at this point, they're like, what the hell is it? Like,
I love it. I'm leaning in, man, because it is. And I hear people all the time. I don't know about in Canada, but we have partner stores that come and partner stores that go, and something that somebody's really excited about comes. We have a product that they're really excited about that now goes away, and I'm like, I'm really careful of what I make the linchpin. Some people make it a store. Some people make it, this thing. Some people make it shop local. Some people make it blah-bitty, blue-bitty, blah-bitty. Yeah. And as J.R. said at the beginning, it could be this for all I care.
Yeah.
The product-wise, we're going to bring in the best products. But I know this, our compensation plan is bar none. And I always make the linchpin, the linchpin being the thing that if it pulled out, the whole thing would fall apart. I make the person's belief lynched upon, like this linchpin upon the fact, the point, that we cap the rock stars. We changed everything. We're betting on success. Everything else out there is betting on failure. There's going to be enough people failing in a system to pay into it, but the people in the company remain profitable. We flipped the entire script and said, we know there's going to be enough successful people, that there's enough volume left over here at the top that they don't get paid on, that we can pay me 20 years later after my parents got started better than even how they got paid when they got started in this business. And that's a huge, it's groundbreaking. It's everything. And just like you said, that's the suspense. That's the buildup. I mean, I built that thing up the entire presentation. And at the end, I'm like, you guys remember I mentioned at the beginning, the whole, the pow, the big thing, the whole, crux to the whole thing. Because my question at this point, my only question was, how do you pay 100%? You can't do it. If I only have $1, I can't pay everybody $1. And I'm sure you guys are all asking the same question, because that was my big thing. If I only have $1, I pay you $1, I'm out of dollars, Canadian or US. And that's it. I mean, if you can build that suspense and explain that concept, truly, I mean, everything else opens up for you.
Oh, that is awesome. And that's not just what's that? That's the part of the plan that I wish more people would understand. Would really be more fired up about. And that's the part of the plan that isn't explained in the videos, that
No.
isn't explained itself on the flip chart or on the slides. That's where we come in, you know?
Yep.
The plan really is, you know, in my point of view, it's where you can tell the stories, add in the values, and alongside the information, right? I think that's even more important. It's telling the stories, adding the values. Yeah, do you agree with that, Colton?
100%, absolutely. They buy you at the beginning. I mean, they're buying you, and then, you know, I'm always careful about what I'm pitching, but I'm always pitching, you know, the next step. But they buy, you know, how convinced are you, and what's coming out of you, and your understanding of it. But I think if you get that cap, then the rest of everything falls into place. I mean, however you show that, you know, however you understand it, understanding that it's actuarial versus probability math, and how all the components of that all pull together. But understanding that cap and all that volume that's left over there at the top is what everybody else here at the bottom. I mean, that's ground that changes the game, and that's why I get so excited to show the plan. That's why it's addictive. When you get that part right there, and they're like, how does that
trying to get to that point? Okay, cool. What do you say? Earlier you mentioned the pass fail, if you book the follow-up appointment or not. What do you say to book the follow-up appointment? Do you have a go-to line that you use?
Of course, absolutely. First off, it comes with a mindset of when I first get started, I let them know I'm not looking for a decision at the end of our appointment there. I'm looking for them to commit to an evaluation process of really poking this out and checking at it. And I'm going to kind of, you know, snorkel or maybe even water ski over some of the concepts. And if they'd like to evaluate this further, they can scuba dive into them. I'll give them as much information as they want, but I want them to really look at this you know, multiple times before they make a decision. So I already have that undertone going throughout the entire presentation. I mentioned this several times, that inside your evaluation process. I say that term a lot.
It's not just ocean sports, right? Yeah.
And so I get that all in there. And then at the end of my presentation, I ask a very key question. I say, based on what you've seen so far, would you have enough interest to continue evaluating further? So based on what you've seen so far, based on all this stuff, you know, would you have enough interest to keep looking at this further? Would you have enough interest to keep evaluating? That's a yes or no question. If they say no, I know I'm good, I don't have enough interest, then they become a customer. It's a no-brainer to become a customer of shop.com. I mean, that's more of an IQ test than anything else. If they say yes, then here's the key line that I have after that. Great. Here's what needs to happen next. Here's what needs to happen next. And then whatever it is, it's the UBP, it's the HPP, it's a product thing, it's a wellness 101, it's whatever you need to make it. But here's what's to happen next. It lets them know there's a system and a process that you're following, that you're not making this up, that they're safe with you. It lets them know that there is a next step. It lets them know it dictates the relationship, that there is a, you know, multiple step process to this. And but that's the key line. So I always ask, you know, based on what you've seen so far, it's the question, would you have enough interest to continue evaluating further? Yes or no? No. Totally fine. I completely understand. Wouldn't you agree it's a no-brainer to get cash back on the stuff you're already spending money on? Right? I mean, that's, you know, kind of a no-brainer. They're gonna yeah, that's no-brainer. Great. Let's get you set up to get a tour of the shop.com website, show you some of my favorite stuff. Have you try some of our product. If you're not brand loyal to Tide, you're gonna like to take it outside, that Tide's the best thing. Our laundry detergent is plant-based, non-toxic, it's enzymatic, a lot higher quality product, but at a better price than Tide. You know, I don't know if you guys have Tide in the States, but that's kind of my key phrase every time. Just because it gives them a wide variety of understanding. If they say yes, then perfect, we're going to book a follow-up.
Here's what needs to happen next. If they say yes, absolutely. Okay, that's excellent, man. And I think this is a good time to transition into the next topic, because you've got a great system that you follow, and obviously you're now starting to get a sizable team all across the United States. My question is, like, how does this work for you, like, in you know, from point of view of leadership? How do you get everybody you know, independent, you know, doing what they need to do, and still, you know, be independent yourself, like not being tied down by a growing team?
Bro, that's a huge question. I love it. It's super important. It starts out with how you even launch the person. Like I just said the word launch. I hear a lot of people say, I signed this person up. I don't sign somebody up. You sign people up for Costco memberships. You don't sign them up into a business. I launched a business with the understanding that they're going to become an independent and franchise owner. My parents' goal when they raised me was not for me to ever live with them. For an 18-year stint, they wanted me to live with them so they could teach me all the values, teach me all the stuff. But then I'm on my way, and if I moved back when I'm 25 years old, they failed because I'm not independent from them. In my mind, it's the same thing with the business. If they're still depending on me for their success, then I messed something up. So my goal is to get them onboarded with the skills that they need to know. I utilize the tools as much as I can. I really put a heavy emphasis on that more than I do on a personality, especially my personality, because that's, limited to the amount of time I'm willing to give to that person. But I really utilize the tools as much as I can and make sure that they listen to their tools. I ask a lot of questions like, what are you listening to? What have you read in the last 6 months that challenged the way that you're thinking? And there's varying levels of leadership. Like the most overutilized term in this business is leader. Everyone's like, this is my new leader. This is my upcoming leader. This is my, this person's the next Elizabeth Weber. That's the key, the key phrase, almost the kiss of death on that poor person. But lots of carry there. But setting the expectation up front, that my goal is that they become independent from me, and then inspiring actions inside of them, letting them inspire actions. So my parents always defined leadership as the ability to inspire actions in those around you. Not to motivate people, but to inspire people with the actions, just inspire activities that would not have happened without your example. So it's coming in and doing something that ordinarily would not have happened. So doing a call workshop, and you guys do a great job with this. I see you guys all the time, doing a coring, and then you bring up this new person and they share to the best of their ability. They do their best. It starts out with, can you give the intro at our home business presentation in front of your 5 best friends? And they're about to throw up over there in the corner, but they do their best, and they're like, oh, I didn't die. That was okay. And then they kind of move on to the next level. They graduate. And now they're, eventually given the first part of the presentation, and eventually the second, and eventually they're opening up at the EVP, and they're like, oh, it's the first time they've ever bought a suit before, and they're trying to, they get it up. There's evolutionary steps to this until eventually they're completely independent of you. They're completely successful without you. But leadership, in my mind, as far as raising up an organization, comes down to delegation. It comes down to having them do their best, even if it's not as good as what you could do, but letting them take over a little bit and a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, and then keeping it simple system anybody can follow. That's really my big thing. If you looked at any one day of our business building process, it would be very underwhelming. If you're going to make a documentary about the life and times of Colton and Michaela Whited, it would be a very boring documentary to watch. But it's so simple. I know everybody can do what we do. It's so simple. My team mostly talks about how little we are there for them, and I'm like, I get it. But it also is what allows you to be strong enough to stand on your own. It's what allows you to make whatever level of wealth you wanted. If you're tied down to me, then you're only going to make a portion of what I make. But if you're independently successful and you know the skills to build this business, and we could drop ship you to Toronto, Canada, and rebuild what you've already built, then you're going to be in great shape, because then that's true freedom. It's a prison cell if you're tied down to somebody else, or timing, or a personality. It's freedom if you're tied down to a process that's bigger than you.
Right. Here's my thoughts on that. Is that leadership in the business and being an unfranchised owner are two different things. They're two separate things. You got to be a franchise owner first, meaning like keeping it simple. Go for the Master UFO program. Hit it, and that's lead by example. But that I don't think is what is not what leadership is. I think leadership is the art of controlling the environment in which your team prevails. That's it. Like, it's just the leaders take care of the environment. They don't take care of the end result. But the leaders also lead by example, and through their unfranchised owner responsibilities, like going for Master UFO, they lead by example, which owns them part of a right of becoming a leader to take care of the environment, where they get more people able to easily hit the Master Unfranchised Owner program.
Man, that's so good. I always say, I'm like, when somebody hits executive coordinator, not always, that often it becomes like a bit of a kiss of death, because then they shift into management mode, where they manage the little executive coordinator team, and they're managing the team. And I'm like, when was the last time you showed the plan personally? When was the last time you did something personally? And that's exactly what you just said. You always lead from the front, lead by example. People came into this because of leaders, not because of bosses. And a lot of times become bosses at executive coordinator. And then, there's another wave of it, usually a professional coordinator. But, it's staying in a position of leadership and staying in that front where I'm leading the pack. I'm doing my activities first, which gives me the integrity part to tell you what you need to do as well. And to lead by example, not tell somebody by example, but lead by example.
Yeah. Awesome. We're having fun, aren't we?
Yeah. I'm just absorbing everything you're telling me right now.
All right, Colton. We're gonna get into what we call the lightning round. And so the lightning round, there'll be a series of questions that come out at you.
It's perfect for
Yes,
this right
that
now.
you drinking your turn up, your wake shot.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and these questions just answer off the top of your head, no more than 60 seconds with each question. All right.
All right.
Okay. You ready? All right. First question. What does your workday look like?
Well, actually, it's pretty funny because you had an example of this morning. I woke up at early this morning, worked out, and then I had an appointment at 9 a.m. That lasted from 9 to 10. I answered text messages and some calls from 10 to 11, and then I came back and I went to the pool and hung out by the pool for a while. I read for a while, and then I had a GMTSS meeting tonight with our local association team about an event this last weekend, and then now I'm here with you guys. And I'd say this is a pretty stereotypical day. I work 15 hours a week. I always put time in for the invite, the show, the plan, and the book, and the follow-up. Those are my 3 activities that are always going to be on my calendar, and those find a way to work out in the week.
Invite, show the plan, book, follow. Okay, great, awesome. Next question. How do you build rapport and trust quickly with a cold prospect?
You got to smile. I see so many people that walk around. It's going out with intentionality with your day. It's walking out deciding it's going to be a great day before you get out of bed. It's becoming an attractive person, not trying to be interesting, or not trying to be interesting to the other person, but interested. It's all these things we've always heard, but it's really true, and it's not turning that off. It's not making it a switch. If that's not you ordinarily, you got to make a habit of becoming a better you, which doesn't mean a big personality, big bubbly personality, all this kind of stuff, but it's becoming somebody that's likable. And then the biggest thing, you guys want the biggest thing? Remembering people's names.
Oh, wow.
Remembering people's names. I can't tell you how many people I hear they're struggling with their business. They want a coaching session with me. They want to sit down and really dig through it. And I'm like, what was our server's name? The one that we just got introduced to that's, waiting on us here at this restaurant. And they're like, I don't know. Well, he said it. What was his name? I don't remember. His name is John. John's our server right now. He's the guy that's taking care of us. He's the guy that served us. He's the guy that literally said his name. And if I asked you 3 seconds later what his name was, you wouldn't remember it. It's not a personality thing. It's not a brain thing. It's you didn't care. And so caring about people around you, starting with that first and foremost.
That is awesome. Okay, next question. What is your advice to someone having a hard time getting people to commit to hearing about what it's all about?
I would, that's a twofold question. I always start out with be tenacious on the process of whatever you're doing, but also be a scientist. So be consistent, because some people evaluate after the first time. They get kind of punched in the face and they start evaluating. I'm like, no, that wasn't you. That was that person. They were just kind of a jerk. On the other side of that, I always am a scientist as well. If I keep getting the same thing over and over and over again, I know it's something that I'm doing. So I would say about hearing what it's all about, I would dig in with this person, Miss Nadine. I would dig in on what you're saying it is. What do you think we do? How do you operate? How do you explain what we do? I would go back and forth with somebody, and where did it get weird, and where was it normal? Where did it shift from you went into robot language and changed your verbiage to like, oh, that's a free flowing conversation? I would practice that over and over again. I would practice with them going back and forth with what do you do? How'd you get started with that?
All right. An approach that makes sense to them. Okay, love it. All right. Next question. How do you get a new and franchise owner motivated to start building right away?
Well, first off, it's with your own personal why. So knowing your why, sharing that freely and openly. I always tell people I don't believe people on this planet to work for other people, but there's a reason that you're here. And if we can get money out of the way and give you all the time to do it, the ripple effects of that could change the world. I say that at every appointment. And then I find out what their thing is. How are they going to change the world? How is it that if we gave them money and time, they would change that? And I figure out why they launched this business. For some people, it's $300 a month. It's not always $100,000 a year. It's, man, what if I made $300 extra per month on an ongoing basis? That's my car payment. That's my credit card debt. That's my whatever. So figuring out why they got into this and then using that as the carrot consistently, not making your why then the carrot, but making their why the carrot.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next question. How do you create a sense of urgency among busy people and in particular parents with young children?
Man, these are good questions. I love these questions. It is going to be up to that person's timing. It's going to be up to their level of commitment, what they're going to have going on. Sometimes people can't commit to everything, but it's prioritizing what we do commit to. My biggest priority, my numero uno most important thing, this again, is Greensboro and Miami. You got to make it to those 2 things. That's the most important thing. So I prioritize that. I look at the process. And then the biggest thing is we have something called a blank schedule. I can send it to you, Andrew, if you'd like. The blank schedule is a very simple thing, but I find out what they can commit to, and then I put that on them. I don't expect people to come to every single thing. I do expect them to come to every single thing they tell me they're coming to. And so figuring out what they can commit to, and then going from there and building on those hours that they do give me. If they give me 3 hours per week, I want to make those 3 hours the most productive 3 hours that they've ever had in their entire life. But I'm not going to force them to do 15 hours if they cannot do 15 hours. But whatever they tell me they're going to do, that's what we're going to do.
Awesome. Okay, great. Meet them where they're at. Next question. What tips do you have to accrue IBV if we don't have much options with groceries and gift cards?
As far as like personal discretionary income, I'll let you guys decide how that is. Or is this a Canadian question?
It's like, I think it's a Canadian question.
Okay. I can't speak too much to the Canadian part. Just do your best. And again, it's the linchpin to the whole thing. My linchpin is the cap and the fact we help a lot of people make a lot of money. It's not stores, it's not the shop local, it's not the blah-bitty, blue-bitty, blue-bitty, blue. Whatever they happen to come out with next, I'm just excited they're taking care of it, and I don't have to know the answer to it. I take care of what I can take care of, which is what happens between these ears and what comes out of this mouth to my organization. So doing my best with what I can do, not wishing something different than what it is.
Right, and I'm just gonna, add on top of that and say, we're going for the SAM, or we're going for the Master and Franchise Owner program to hit the 275 IBV. Really, the first place is to, just try your best, like give it your best shot, and you'll be surprised how easily you can get it. And one more thing that just want to plug in, like to all of our Canadian franchise owners here. Take advantage of the 50 IBV option on auto ship. There's a 50 IBV cap on auto ship, meaning we can put our prime joint on it and get, 47 IBV? Yeah, you get 47 IBV from it, whereas if you were to order that from a manual order, the maximum is only 30. So be on the unfranchised auto ship and max out the IBV on that front for now. That's the best way to do it. Okay.
Love it.
Yeah. Next question. What advice would you give to younger individuals who are evaluating the business?
Yeah, I always look at what younger is. I put people that are under 35 through a heck of a ringer. Starting, can you read a book?
Yeah.
If you can't read a book, you're not going to build this business. Yeah, it's a good book. It was the first one I grabbed. But I start with the book. So in my mind, I put the younger ones through a bit of a ringer. In my mind, the ideal age that I'm looking for is 35 to 45. By that point, they've already got enough wax in life that I can kind of leverage that. Sometimes if they're younger than that, they're so, I'm not going to say idealistic because I like the dreamer, but it's almost this like, I don't need your small thing until they realize, man, 100,000 a year is a lot of money, especially when you talk about ongoing income. So I kind of use that. But I'll say this in the same sentence. My biggest leaders are all under 35. So while I say 35 to 45 is my big thing, I put the younger people through the ringer, but my best people end up being the younger people. So there ends up being two different young peoples. Young people that kick butt and are self-motivated and driven, and young people that complain and think they're victims and want handouts. And we don't do handouts. We don't do lotteries. This is the most fair thing on the planet. It's did you do your push-ups or did you not do your push-ups? Did you show up when you said you're going to show up, or did you not show up when you said you're going to show up? And if you can't show up on time, if you can't read a book, you're not going to be successful. And that separates the wheat from the chaff in this business.
I love it. Okay, I think we're on our last question right now. What's the most exciting move you've made in 2019 to take your business to the next level?
Boom, great question. It actually came after Andrew Cheek came to town. So I was pretty fired up after Andrew, and we were talking about weekly things that he was doing, and I was like, man, that's so good. A huge value on our team is working less hours, but working smarter in those hours. And so I've always kind of avoided like a weekly meeting. Just because I don't want a whole nother thing in someone's schedule. I implemented business building workshops, which basically we get together. I teach for 30 to 45 minutes on prospecting, recruiting. They're power packed, they're fast, they're fun. I bring a lot of music and a lot of energy. These have been amazing so far, but then we do a call workshop at the end of it. I bring in executive field vice president, rock star, director of field sales, whatever he's in charge of. He's a big deal, Jim Winkler, and he does the lose the script, make the call video. We make the calls, and then I made one of these. It's not laminated and pretty, but it's basically the how to make a phone call thing, and that has been huge so far. Everybody's doing weekly calls. The whole thing in this business, in my opinion, again, and I learned this again, relearned it again after Andrew, is everybody inviting once a week? Is everybody inviting once a week? If that's not prioritized on their schedule, it's not going to happen, because emotions dictate up and down, and your business will go up and down. But if you commit to the process of every week inviting somebody to see the business plan, then you've blackmailed yourself to show the business plan. And then from after when you're there, then it just comes up with the skill. You got to develop the skill of always booking a follow-up. But it all comes back to step one: did you invite? And so creating structure for my team, and just like you said earlier, leaders create environments, creating an environment of fun, energy, excitement, where we're making phone calls. That started for us back in June. And so far, people are like, summers are always hard. And I'm like, but we've been crushing it this summer. The amount of appointments we've had this summer, the amount of things, there's been 30 people that have shown the plan by me personally in the last 3 weeks, just because of all the activity we've been building up. And we're ABC patterned this thing right into Greensboro in the hardest season to build, which is July. We've been crushing it. So thank you, Andrew, for that one.
I love it. Okay. All right, Colton, this has been fun. It's been a really high speed, high impact conference call. I want to end off by saying, Colton, I'm super excited for the future, for your future, for seeing for us growing through the ranks together. A sneak peek. We are talking about working a collaboration potentially next year.
Come on.
Yeah, and it's just a sneak peek of it. We're gonna merge our empires, learn from one another, and it's gonna be an impactful weekend. Yeah. So more on that later on in the year. We're still ironing out the details, right, Colton?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but yeah, can you give us some final some closing remarks, and then we're gonna end off the call tonight.
Build it now. Build it fast, and build it to last. Because it's worth it.
I love it because it's worth it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was Colton Whited. Thank you so much, brother. We will see you at International Convention. Can't wait for it, man.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Colton.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.